The desert held its breath beneath a sky of dying stars, the silence so deep it felt like time itself had stopped. Far beyond the horizon, the city of Amirath slept under silver light, unaware that a sea of armored invaders marched to erase it forever. From the western coast they came, ships like black mountains, banners of crimson and steel glimmering under the moon, driven by greed and gods not their own. And standing between them and glory was Commander Raif al-Namir, the desert lion, last sword of Amirath. Alone atop a high dune, he watched their torches crawl across the plains like fireflies, the cold wind tugging at his torn cloak. His armor, dented and scarred, lay beside him, every mark a memory, every dent a friend lost. He had buried too many names, loved and lost too much, but his purpose burned brighter than pain. "You have drunk the blood of my fathers," he whispered to the sand. "Tonight, you'll drink mine too." The wind sighed in answer. At dawn, the horizon turned to fire, and the invaders appeared, a storm of steel stretching to the edge of the world. Inside the walls, the people watched in silence, mothers, children, and poets who knew the morning might be their last. Raif rode before his army, 10,000 men, farmers and shepherds turned soldiers, their faces hard but proud. Raising his curved sword, he shouted, "Brothers! The world believes we are dust. Let us show them that the desert is eternal." The roar that answered him shook the dunes. Drums thundered, horses screamed, and the battle began. Arrows filled the sky, spears glittered, and the sands exploded with blood and fury. Raif fought like the storm itself, his blade carving through chaos as the men of the Crescent stood their ground. The sun burned overhead, turning sweat to salt and sand to fire, and when Raif's horse fell, he rose again, his voice roaring above the carnage, "Hold the line. We are the sons of the sand, we do not kneel." When the sun finally bled into the horizon, the desert was red. Half his army was gone, but Amirath still stood. On the ridge, Raif and Amir watched the burning fields below. "They'll return at dawn," Amir said. Raif nodded. "Then we will too. The desert never sleeps." Beneath the rising crescent moon, their campfires flickered like stubborn stars refusing to die. Night fell like a shroud, heavy and still, the battlefield below smoldering with ghostly embers. Raif stood alone on the ridge, his sword buried in the sand, the wind whispering the names of the dead Khalid, Farid, countless brothers who would never rise again. His armor felt like stone, his heart heavier still. "Tomorrow," he said to the dark, "I'll give them what's left of me, but I will not break." Behind him came quiet footsteps. Amir emerged, his arm bound, his eyes bright with the fire that still refused to fade. "The men are wounded, but they believe in you," he said. Raif looked toward the camp below, torches glowing like dying souls. "Tell them to rest," he answered. "Tomorrow, we fight not for walls, but for the soul of the desert." Amir hesitated. "And if dawn never comes?" Raif smiled faintly. "Then the night will remember us." The camp was a city of silence. Men sharpened blades, bound wounds, whispered prayers. Some carved their names into the sand so the wind would remember them. Raif walked among them, his hand resting on shoulders, his voice calm and steady. "Courage is not the absence of fear," he told a trembling boy. "It's fighting while your hands still shake." The young soldier nodded, his heart steadied. When Raif reached his horse, Zafir, the stallion nuzzled his arm, restless under the crescent moon. "If I fall," Raif murmured, "find your way home." Hours later, under a dim lantern, Raif sat alone with an old map, tracing lines of a land he'd sworn to protect. His thoughts drifted to Layla, his lost wife, buried beneath white dunes where the wind sang. He could almost hear her voice, "Promise me the desert will never forget us." A single tear fell onto the parchment. "I promised," he whispered. Before dawn, Amir burst into the tent. "Raif, they move early. Their scouts are already here." Raif rose instantly, his fatigue burning away like mist. "Then they've come to end it," he said, donning his armor one last time. The horns of Amirath blared across the camp, deep, mournful, final. The men gathered, wounded but unbroken, facing the rising sun and the endless crimson tide ahead. "They think we are broken," Raif shouted, lifting his blade. "Let them see what remains of those who do not fear the end." 10,000 voices answered, shaking the sand. Across the desert, enemy horns screamed in reply, and two tides of destiny began to move toward each other. The desert wind rose, wrapping Raif and Amir in a swirl of golden dust. The world held its breath. Raif looked once more at the crescent fading in the daylight sky and whispered, "Let this blood be remembered." Amir nodded. "Until the end." And then the storm broke. The final battle was chaos turned holy, a symphony of war echoing through eternity. The sands ran red, the sky burned white, and the men of Amirath fought like gods born of flame. Raif led from the front, his blade gleaming like lightning, every strike a promise kept. Beside him, Amir fought with fire in his heart, his wounded arm forgotten, his spirit unbreakable. Around them, the Crescent Guard held firm, not for victory, but for memory. Arrows darkened the sun, the ground thundered with horses, and still they did not yield. The enemy came in endless waves, led by Lord Darius of the North, a giant in black armor, his crimson plume stained with ash. When his eyes met Raif's, the world stilled. They charged, and the desert itself trembled. Blades clashed like thunder, blood and sand mixed into one. Darius drove Raif to his knees, sword raised for the final strike, but Raif caught the blade with his bare, bleeding hand and, with a cry that shook the dunes, drove his own sword through the warlord's heart. Silence fell, then an explosion of battle cries, one side broken, the other reborn. But Raif's strength was fading, and a second wave of enemies appeared on the horizon. He raised his sword again, his voice raw, "Crescent Guard. For every brother who fell, stand with me." And they did. They fought until the sun bled into the horizon, until only the wind remained to carry their names. When it was over, Raif found Amir lying among the fallen, still breathing. "Did we win?" Amir whispered. Raif smiled faintly. "We remembered who we were. That's enough." Amir's eyes closed peacefully. Raif looked to the rising crescent and whispered, "Layla. I kept the promise." He planted his sword into the sand and bowed his head, a warrior's farewell beneath the endless sky. Years later, the desert covered the battlefield in gold, but travelers said that under the moon, they could still hear the faint echo of battle cries, the ghosts of the Crescent Guard guarding their homeland. Amirath rose again, rebuilt on their courage. The people spoke of Raif al-Namir, the Lion of the Crescent, the man who never surrendered, who fought until even the desert bowed in silence. Moral: True victory isn't measured by land or conquest, but by courage when hope is gone, for the greatest warriors are remembered not for how they lived, but for what they refused to surrender. Crossed Swords, Crescent Moon.